I'm Randy Reid, editor of the Edison Report, and today we are joined by authors Cole Zucker and Guillaume Vidal, and the name of their book is Flipping the Switch: How We Started and Scaled a Global Lighting Brand. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you, Randy. Very nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And it's so great to see you again. And it's been a couple of years. I'm a little more than halfway through the book. I'm enjoying the book immensely. I have one criticism. You're missing a word. There's one word that is not in your book anywhere, and it should be there.
What is the word?
Is charisma. Both of you have charisma. And I think that is a lot of your success. That's the reason for a lot of your success. Obviously, it's hard to write, we have charisma. You can't put that in the book. But I just know back in the days when I would interview you at Light Fair, I was so looking forward to it because they were such fun talks. They're not just a bunch of boring, here we are, this is our product, this is what we're doing. They were always very exciting. And I think, when Cole, when you were starting out in the US selling, and then Guillaume, when you were in China and trying to get the manufacturers, I think your charisma played a lot in your success. Comment?
That's very nice to hear, and not something I personally have not thought about, but it makes a lot of sense, actually. It helped us out.
Well, I just tell you that's the word that I think describes you both. Listen, your book is really fun and very exciting, and I want to start from the time you guys met. So you met in a bar, and then you kind of hit it off, and then boom, you never saw each other again. And then Cole, if I remember correct, you were watching television in China. And you saw Guillaume, is that correct?
That's exactly right. I got home one day, I randomly sat on the remote, it changed the TV to the local channel, which because I normally watched a Philippine TV feed with satellite, because in China, that's the nearest English market. And yeah, all of a sudden I'm watching local Chinese TV, and it's about to turn off the TV, and all of a sudden I'm saying, wait a second, I know that guy.
And then you reconnected after you saw him on the television.
Very quickly sent him a text message, and I think 2 days later we were meeting up and hanging out again.
Right. And then you just kind of started hanging out, and you both knew you wanted to own your own businesses. You both knew you wanted to get involved in something global. And then it just kind of began to come together. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we started talking. I mean, Cole wanted to move back to the US and start a business. Me, I wanted to stay in China and start a business. And both of us were involved somehow in the lighting business. And so after a couple of meetings, that's where we realized maybe there is something that the two of us can do together.
Right. Well, Cole, when you talk in the book about living in your car because you had no money, and then you would go to the gym, I guess, and pay a few dollars, and then you would go in and take a shower. You had told me a little bit about that in one of the interviews that we did. It was perhaps the last interview, but you just told it in such great detail. I almost felt I was in the car with you, hanging up my clothes in the window so people couldn't peer in.
Well, you got to do what you got to do when you're first starting out. I mean, one of the biggest reasons why we went to such extremes is because we put all of our money, our life savings, which seemed like a lot at the time, into a joint bank account. And so that money, once it was gone, meant that we would have to find jobs again, because had we run out of money, we wouldn't have had a business anymore. And so it was a matter of how do we minimize our business cash flow requirements and personal cash flow requirements too. And so whatever we could do that would be the cheapest thing was the default solution for a very long time.
Well, I've got a quote from your book. While venture-backed businesses could focus on growth, we were self-funded and needed the business to be profitable. I thought that was a really bold statement, because you ran circles around the companies that had the venture money.
I mean, one of the things that you're seeing today in the market is before it was, growth at all costs, and now companies, especially publicly traded venture-backed businesses, they are getting absolutely punished for not being profitable. So there have been a lot of changes as the market headwinds have occurred over the last 18 to 24 months. But when you're first starting out and you need to use profits to fund the business, it really shifts the mentality in terms of what you should and shouldn't be doing. And the culture within Silicon Valley, of course, as we all know, has been one of excess, which is I can always kick the tree and get more money if I need it. And for us, there was no tree to kick, so it had to come from profits.
Sure. And so you guys are rocking and rolling along. The business is growing a little bit, and then Guillaume, you had an issue with Energy Star. And your Energy Star, it was kind of a small issue, and they just delisted you on everything. What was that like? And tell our audience a little bit about some of the things you did to overcome that with your customers.
Yeah, so Energy Star was very important. It's something that obviously you need the product to be UL or ETL, like safety-wise, but Energy Star was such something that was very important for all the rebate, and all the customers wanted Energy Star products. So we spent a lot of time certifying the products. And a lot of people don't know, but that's like 6 to 12 months of time where the products are turned on, where they measure every 1,000 hours the performance. And then every couple of months or year, they take some products to test to make sure it's the same. And so we're going through all of that. But there is one thing that a lot of people might not be aware of. Every year, you have to report the number of products you shipped. And that's just a table in Excel that you have to fill in. And I failed filling it. And when they don't receive this, they don't send any warning, say, hey, can you send us a report? They just delist all the products. So from Monday to Tuesday, you have no more product on Energy Star. So all the companies, we're all freaking out. We had a great relationship with Energy Star. They would come visit. We would discuss a lot about the upcoming technologies, but they say, hey, that's the way it is. We're a government entity. We apply the rules. And it took us a long time. It took us a couple of weeks to get it back on track. But in the meantime, we have to reach out to customer and say, hey, it's just a reporting issue, but if you have a problem on your project, we're going to cover the cost. If you cannot get the rebate, we're going to cover the cost. And we got some approvals actually from utilities in different parts of the country, saying that they would still rebate the product because they knew it was just kind of an admin issue. But that was a very scary situation. And after that, we paid attention to this report.
And Cole, you stated, okay, it's a problem. I didn't get mad at Guillaume. There's no reason to throw a fit here. Let's just figure this thing out. And my belief is whenever you have a problem and you fix that problem with your customers, you've gained even more credibility with them because they know that you're going to stand behind things. Before you had the problem, they didn't know. They just assumed it. But now, because you did step up and you did fund that rebate money where you needed to, I think it gave you even more credibility with them.
It's so easy to be able to say, we're going to have an amazing relationship. And when things are normal in terms of just the course of business, people will inevitably say like, oh, these guys are great. But the truth is, until someone's battle tested, you have no idea. And so these are the moments when you can really be able to prove to your customers that you stand behind things. So I think that, not to say that it's a good thing, but it's certainly a critical piece as far as building a long-term relationship.
Sure. And people do make mistakes. Let's talk a minute about Lighting Science Group. I had forgotten, and you refreshed my memory. They were the big boys at the time. They had the money. They had the VC money. I knew Fred, quite well during the day. And I want to know, how did you go to market against them?
Well, when we first came to market, our product was significantly inferior to what they were manufacturing. And so it was pretty obvious that they, in any type of Coke Pepsi challenge, were going to destroy us. But that being said, having a product is only one component of building a business. And they were running into a situation where they were working with Sylvania, they were at Home Depot, and they were also in distribution. And they deprioritized distribution as they were running into supply chain issues. And distributors were waiting literally months, if not almost a year, to get product on their shelves. And so for these distributors, you can't really sell product if you don't have it. And they started to get kind of frustrated. And so at the time that people were kind of saying, all right, lighting science is a great product, but they're untenable in terms of, being able to work with them, we kind of came into the fold and said nice things with our charisma.
There you go. Well, a little story you may find interesting. I was having dinner with Zach Gibler. He's deceased now in a bicycle accident, but
Yeah.
Zach was CEO of Lighting Science at the time, and he had to excuse himself during dinner. It was Joe Montana, and they were in discussions to have Joe Montana as a spokesman. And he actually had a phone call with Joe Montana on the call. And I just thought that was a kind of a neat deal. But to my knowledge, I think Lighting Science is gone. I don't know. We never hear from them anymore. I know they were publicly traded and delisted. So again, I think it's interesting, you without any venture money, and how your company is still going great, and that one is gone. Okay, moving along, I found it interesting about the inventory. You've got to build the inventory quick. You've got to sell it, and you've got to sell it quick because it's going to go obsolete. Tell our audience a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah, so the inventory is a very important piece in the business. As Cole just mentioned, with another company, if you don't have the product, you don't have a business. And so not only is very difficult to get projections, because we're talking about years where it was really the beginning of the LED revolution per se, and nobody had an idea of how many lamps they would need, which color temperature, which wattage, and so on. So you don't really have a good projection and no historical data. And on top of this, we grew from, a dozen SKUs to more than 100. And so having inventory becomes very complicated, and you manufacture overseas, which takes time, then you ship it, and then you put it in different warehouses. All of this is already a 3 to 4 month cycle. And all your money, you were talking about it, is all done at that time until you ship it and you bill it, and then you get paid, which is also another 30, 45 days later. It's a very huge pressure cycle. And as you mentioned, on top of this, the technology was moving so fast that our product life was about 12 to 18 months. So literally, when you start shipping the first product, within 1 to 2 months, you're starting the next generation. So you have the demand, you don't know, the products are changing, the technology is evolving, and you have all your money stuck in this. So it was something that we've never mastered. And unfortunately, we had to disappoint people, of course, from time to time, because we couldn't have all the inventory. We managed to put some more advanced system in place and more, local data from each specific market. But it's something that was a huge, huge challenge.
Understood. All right. So Cole, you got your first customer, the furniture company. I think you sold about 1,000 lights to them. Tell us about that a little bit.
Oh man, that's a walk down memory lane. So, a lot of the early day time was spent walking the streets of San Francisco, because it was pretty clear that distributors just were not going to buy our products, and so kind of had to sink or swim, so to speak, because there was no other alternative. And so we put together this beautiful metal suitcase that we could use for display purposes, and I proceeded to start walking the streets of San Francisco, selling light bulbs door to door. And at some point, realized that the biggest users of light bulbs in San Francisco are these Israeli furniture stores, and was able to become friends with some of the managers, and then from there, sell them on lighting. They became our first customer, a great reference, and without them, there'd be no Green Creative, because they really sustained us in our first year.
And of course, San Francisco, home of Westlight, and then Westlight
Absolutely.
was your first distributor. And I've got another quote that struck me. I think they had 25 salespeople, and I think Gary said, "I can't believe you met with almost all our salespeople. I didn't even give you permission to meet with one of them."
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, as soon as I kind of got the green-ish light, because it wasn't a full green light, I just went on a tear and spent a day with essentially every single one of their salespeople. Started building relationships, do lunch and learns, whatever it took as far as really educating their team and helping them to sell.
Okay, so now you've got an end user, now you've got a distributor, now you've got 25 commission salespeople, and this is when it began to take off. Is that right?
That's right. That was the beginning of year two. I mean, year one, we did about 300,000 in sales. Year two was about 2 million in sales. And that 2 million was largely from local distributors in the Bay Area.
Okay. All right, let's move on and talk about personnel. And I want to hear the story about Veronica, who didn't even show up for the first interview, and you were so desperate, you still hired her.
Yeah, I mean, building the team throughout the whole company has been something where we had the best success and the biggest failures as well. Companies as good as its people, and we're looking for. Veronica was the first person wanted to hire on the China side, and literally nobody was answering any of our posts because we're not a big companies. We're in a tiny office, literally the size of a bedroom, that we were sharing with another company. That's like, and next to us was very horrible buildings. I mean, nothing that could be attractive to anybody that is looking for a job. And yeah, Veronica did not show up on day one, but she called me back on day two and say, oh, she forgot, she made a mistake. And obviously we had no other option. So we hired her, and she turned out to be an amazing person because one-on-one with me, she was really learning everything step by step. Not that I'm perfect, I make a lot of mistakes, but she learned the good side of me, and she managed to go over. She took over merchandising, she took over getting involved in product, and she even took over the entire R&D team with managing the engineers and the testing. So it was really a very nice experience.
Yeah, and with no lighting experience, that's it. You never know when you're hiring people until you get them in. And then Cole, I remember your experience, I think, with James. And James was a big company lighting guy, right? He'd worked for one of the major companies.
Yeah, one of the things you hear as it relates to a lot of tenured salespeople is that I've got 10 years experience, 15 years experience, and I've got incredible relationships across the industry. And, as soon as you hire me, you will see an increase in sales because everyone wants to buy from me. The truth is, it helps. It's certainly a factor, at least gets you in the door, it lets you have conversations, but ultimately, there's a lot of other factors that come into play when it comes to, being able to establish yourself and grow within distribution. And, the way that I kind of see things now is, when people say, oh, I've got 10 years experience doing X, Y, Z, the question I ask is it 10 years experience, or is it 10 years of doing the same thing 10 times in a row? So, you have to kind of understand the nuances there because, having a great relationship does not necessarily mean, A, you're actually going to hustle and work as hard as somebody who's young and hungry in their career, and then B, with the relationships doesn't mean that they're going to get the sales. And we learned that the hard way, but it worked out in the end because we were able to walk away amicably.
Tell our audience a little bit about the money conversion and how you didn't use banks in China and you'd go to an old man with a wad of cash. What was that all about?
Yeah, in China, the bank rate was really bad to change money, and you had a lot of limitations. So I was, in China, cash at the time especially was really all over the place. And you would see literally people walking with a bunch of cash in their hands. It's not something you see anywhere else. And so I would go to the bank and ask for the rate. It was so bad. Then I walk outside and you always want one or two people outside changing cash in the street. And so you negotiate the rate and here you go. You give your RMB, you get the dollars. And when I would come back from my trip, I would do the other way around. So that was the exchange system at the time.
Let's move on a little bit. And it's now a successful business. Some people are interested in buying it. How did you make the decision to exit the business?
Yeah, so I mean, it was an amazing, we grew so fast and we run into so many issues, and we're talking about people around us, about the company, the systems, the product we're developing. we made mistakes in every area you can make, but we managed to grow because, as you mentioned, we're focusing on solutions, not the problem. And that's kind of a culture that we cultivated in the company, and we got people to follow as well. But when we were reaching about $60 million in revenue, Cole and I were wondering, okay, how are we going to do to double this? It's a big word to say, it's scary, but it's like at some point, we're always looking at growing. And that's what the real question we ask ourselves. And then we're thinking about, wow, team-wise, we're going to need some people that are managing much bigger business, because at this point, 1 cent change a lot when you're talking about 100, 200, 300,000 pieces. And then you also need a lot of money to grow to the next level. And so with Cole, we're kind of wondering, hey, how are we going to do this? And that's when we decided that finding the right partner who could have the skills and the financial asset to help us move forward was very important. And that was a huge challenge. It was not something easy. A lot of people in the business had to get involved, people outside the business as well. But we managed to find the right partner. And so that ended up very well.
Okay. Cole, do you want to add anything to that?
I mean, at some point, you realize that you no longer possess the skills to continue to grow the business. And, Guillaume and I are very much builders as it relates to optimizing, really understanding, which systems to use, Epicor versus NetSuite. I mean, we can learn, but, we haven't been able to implement multiple systems in our business with our business experience. And so having personnel, partners that have been there before, they understand what it takes to get the business to that next level. For us, it was kind of a no-brainer because we realized that we needed the help.
Oh, okay. So now you've moved on, you've sold the company. Tell our audience what you're both doing now.
Yeah, so we've been actually we're still working together with Cole. One of the big things that happened since we're focusing on other things was a lot of companies asking for kind of our advising role. And so that's very interesting because not a lot of entrepreneurs realize that to grow to a certain size profitably, we're going back to that topic, is very difficult. You need to find the right people, the right system, the right strategy, the right roadmap, and all of those things. Usually an entrepreneur managed to do one or two, but not all of them at the same time, and finding the right people as well. And so that's what we're doing, is finding companies that are small, medium-sized, but growing in a nice way where we can really help them to kind of accelerate their growth. And that's what we enjoy doing very much. And that's what we're kind of focusing
lighting
on now.
Companies or non-lighting companies?
Not lighting companies. It could happen to have an opportunity in lighting, but it's really at this stage where we know any business kind of have, unfortunately or fortunately for us, the same roles. You need the demand, you need the offer, and you need to find a good match in between to make it happen in a smooth, profitable, and efficient way. And so that's kind of what we're doing now.
Okay.
But we are talking and working with companies within the lighting world, but we are pretty agnostic as it relates to industry.
Okay, understood. Guillaume, is there anything I haven't asked you about the book that I should ask?
Not really. I mean, I feel like one of the things that we did very well with Cole was the roadmap of the product, and because when you grow the product line so much and you change the product so quickly, the intense R&D efforts that are taking place, and as it relates to R&D efforts, is all the marketing efforts are very unique. And we had the R&D and the marketing working together, even in the same office, which is very unique, and launching all those products that won a lot of awards, including one by EdisonReport, were really amazing and brought the company to a level where Cole and the sales team and the reps, all the team was able to push it through. So it kind of a whole full circle to go from we have an idea to now we're selling on the shelf.
All right. Cole, anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked?
Not really. Just it's great to see you. You look amazing, and I hope that we can get together soon.
All right. All right. Now here's a tough question for you, wrapping up. Did you own the business 50-50? Was it a true 50-50 split? And if so, that's really tough by not having one person in charge. How did you manage that?
Well, yes, absolutely. And the idea of us not being 50-50 partners is kind of crazy, at least in our minds, just because that was the key to our success. What we did is essentially, we were the co-CEOs, but we were effectively running our own businesses. My business was the US side, which was a sales and distribution company. Guillaume's side was the manufacturing and product development side. And so we were pretty split. Guillaume was working while I was sleeping and vice versa. We were, making decisions together as it relates to kind of the high level strategy vision. But as far as implementation, we were really off on our own kind of separate islands, our separate silos. So I think that was one of the reasons why the business was able to work so effectively. And one of the reasons why a lot of companies with partnerships do not, because there's a lot of overlap, complementary skill sets are really just kind of not there. And they're working together on too many things and, creates conflict.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you. The name of the book is Flipping the Switch, How We Started and Scaled a Global Lighting Brand. Cole Zucker and Guillaume Vidal. Where can they buy the book? Where is the book available?
On Amazon. You can get the hardcover, the soft cover, or the Kindle. So if you end up buying it, please leave us a review, because that's why it's on a steep discount this week.
Well, I've purchased it, and I will leave you a review as soon as I'm finished, probably in a day or two. Okay, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.